The Beyond the Fame podcast is sponsored by the historic Ford's Theater in Washington, D.C. Step into 1865. President Lincoln has been shot and the city is in chaos. As the newest deputy to join the ranks, the investigation is in your hands. Join Detective James McDevitt as you retrace the footsteps of the Lincoln assassination through the streets of downtown D.C. Whether you're a history buff, a true crime enthusiast, or just looking for an entertaining way to get your steps in, there's something for everyone in history on foot. For tickets, visit Fords.org. This month's programming is also brought to you by Signature Theater in Shirlington, Virginia. Signature Theater presents Pippin, the Tony Award-winning musical from the composer of Wicked, featuring the hit songs Magic to Do and Corner of the Sky. Pippin now through July 26th. For tickets, visit sigtheater.org. And of course, this podcast would not be possible without our longtime sponsor, the Hollywood Casino at Charlestown Races in West Virginia. Upcoming featured entertainment includes Hawthorne Heights on June 11th and Killers of Kill Tony on June 13th. Details and tickets at HollywoodCasinoCharlestown.com. Must be 21 to enter the casino floor and attend a show. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. Welcome to the newest episode of Beyond the Fame with Jason Fraley. I'm your host, Jason Fraley, picking the brains of the top artists and entertainers of our time. The 79th Annual Tony Awards honor Broadway's best tonight on CBS and Paramount+. I spoke with one of the lead contenders for Best Musical tonight in Ken Davenport, one of the producers of the Titanic musical parody Titanic. Davenport knows a thing or two about the Tonys, having previously won for both Kinky Boots and Once on This Island. Hey, Ken Davenport. Hey, thank you so much for joining the Beyond the Fame podcast.
It's a pleasure to be here. Thanks for having me.
We're talking to the two-time Tony winner of Kinky Boots and Once on This Island and so many other great shows because tonight, Titanic, which you are one of the producers on, is competing at the Tony Awards. Do you think it has a chance to win tonight at the Tonys?
Absolutely. I'm gonna get my tux on and get there, and hopefully we'll be walking on that stage. It absolutely, that's what the thing about these races. It's a very tight one. I do know that audiences and voters, et cetera, right now, they really want fun. Yeah. They want joy. There's a heck of a lot of what in the world right now. Mm-hmm. And people are making choices to go to things that have a lot of joy and a lot of fun and make them forget about it. And actually, that's why the Broadway musical was created. It's a very unique American art form, mm-hmm. right? We don't own much. We didn't invent much in the terms of the arts. Musical theater is one of those things that we did. And we created it so that everyone could forget about their troubles for a couple hours and go into the theater and they didn't have phones, they didn't have all that constant communication. Yeah. So for 2 to 3 hours, they just forgot about it and laughed and had fun. We are back in that world right now. That's what people want.
Absolutely. And over your shoulder, I'm a film critic too, so I'm trained to look for the quote mise en scène of your composition. I see the Tony over your shoulder. It could be foreshadowing. Which one is that from?
What there's a Tony Award back there? I had no idea. Who put
it's on the shelf?
Oh, that one.
Yeah. Well, we're pulling for you here too. Although, I interview people in a bunch of different shows. So, if I'm talking to them, I'll probably be saying I'm rooting for them too.
I get it. It's a very interesting year. I mean, look, we love a horse race, and that's what we've got this year. Especially the two big prizes are obviously Best Play and Best Musical is the big one.
Yeah.
And that, people will start handicapping the Best Musical race like a year or two in advance. What will get nominated and what will eventually win. Yeah. And this year is a real tight race that could go any way. We have The Lost Boys, we have Titanic, we have Schmigadoon, we have Two Strangers, the little underdog show, 2 people in it, the unit set, and each of those shows has a lot of fans in it. There are actually about 800 voters who will make their decision, which sounds like a lot. It's not. So think about it. I mean, look, 4 nominees. If it's tight, if it's split, you're talking 200, 200, 200, 200.
Yeah.
So all of a sudden, 10 votes makes a difference. So we're in the thick of the Tony lobbying season right now, which is a lot of events, a lot of things, and a lot of handshaking, and hopefully people counting their votes just like they do in Congress to see if they're going to be the big winner.
Absolutely.
I will tell you that like all of the musicals this year are terrific and
Yeah.
very, very different.
Yeah.
So Schmigadoon, original musical based on the TV show, but sort of celebrating musicals, Lost Boys, iconic movie, vampires, like
Yeah.
big spectacle, and then Two
Yeah.
Strangers, two people, and from London, and then Titanic, which is just a major, major joy fest, super funny,
Yeah.
and you leave like walking on air.
Remind us the premise for any, I mean, Broadway fans already know it and they've probably all seen it, but for any of our listeners that tune in that maybe haven't been up to Broadway, they live in other parts of the country or whatever. Talk about sort of the premise of Celine Dion, the museum, etc.
Yeah, Titanic is a parody of Titanic, the movie, but set to all the Celine Dion songs. And Celine herself, or an actress playing
Yeah.
Celine, inserts herself into the plot of the movie. So it's super fun. It's a crazy idea. It's a great little, it started in like a little strip mall in Los Angeles, went to
Yeah.
a small theater here. It's really one of those great stories about a little musical that could.
Absolutely. And I believe it's Best Musical, the big prize, Best Book of a Musical, and Best Actress in a Musical for
Yeah.
Marla Mindell. Is that right? Yeah,
Yes, correct, correct. And she
absolutely.
is a force to be seen. Super, super funny, and
Yeah.
she's already quite a name. This is going to really vault her career
Yeah.
forward for sure.
Well, actually, I should say she's nominated for the book too, because she co-wrote it with Ty Blue and Constantine how do I say it? Rusoli?
Yes,
Rusoli.
exactly.
Rusoli. Yeah, okay. Uh, awesome, awesome. Well, yeah, it began off Broadway in 2022, West End in 2024, and then now Broadway this year. And we'll see how it does at the Tonys. All right, but anyway, when we have people on, I mean, this is called the Beyond the Fame podcast. So not only do we sort of talk about the reason you're famous, but I like to sort of go beyond it and sort of paint a little bit of a chronological life story, of how you got it into it to begin with. I should say just overall, you've raised what over $100 million to finance live productions over your career. So, folks, strap in, fasten your seatbelts, as Margot Channing would say about abroad, and because you're about to learn the secret to your success, and at the very least, just enjoy memory lane on some Broadway shows we love. So, all right, so let's go back to the beginning then. So you were born in 1972 in Phoenix, Arizona. I know you mostly grew up in Massachusetts, but your birth name, because your father immigrated from Bombay, India, right? And your mom was the maiden name was Davenport, right? So tell me sort of that story. Like I believe your great grandfather was a theater producer across the pond at some point, right? But do you know how your parents met?
Yes, my father was part of the Indian wave of doctors that came over in the 60s, was told by his mother, you're going to go to medical school in
Mm,
India and then you're going to go to the US.
nice.
And that's what he did. He was a cardiologist. So he was born and raised in what was then Bombay. He was born in 1929, a long time ago, and India was a lot different back then.
Yeah.
Came over here in the 60s, met my mom here. They got divorced when I was 5.
Mm,
And the reason that I actually mention that is because that's also when I started in the theater when I was 5.
mm,
And I always say the theater was the one place they could get along. Like they
wow.
were both very involved with the local community theater. So they dragged me to an audition when I was 5 years old, and I got cast in the show, The Steadfast Tin Soldier, and it was sort of common ground. And that really, if I can wax poetic about the theater in general, like that's my metaphor for the theater
Yeah.
overall. It doesn't, a Broadway show can put 2,000 people in a theater of all different ages,
Hmm.
sexuality, race, gender, religion, no matter what. And if the
Yep.
show is great, all of those people, no matter how diverse and different they are, will be unified under the
Yep.
message of the author as delivered by the actors and the musicians. And there's something so beautiful about that.
Yeah.
Is look, I go to see my shows. I usually go to the last 5 minutes. And when the curtain call comes or the last number, and I turn around and I look at the audience and to see all those different people all celebrating that one thing is just so beautiful to me. It's why one of my favorite quotes is art changes more minds than politicians ever will.
Wow. That's genius. I don't even know if you know this, but we're in the DC area. Like I was just talking to Shireen Pimentel, who played in the Broadway West Side Story revival on Broadway, and now they're bringing it down here with the Washington National Opera. And we were just talking about this because Washington National Opera left the Kennedy Center after 55 years because the president came in and basically kicked off the whole board, slapped his name on the building, Trump Kennedy Center. And but basically we've seen a bunch of boycotts, and now sadly, after years of me covering the Kennedy Center honors and all the great shows there, like it's really been heartbreaking to see down in here in DC how politics and sort of this extreme politics. We need a good common sense Republicans and Democrats or whatever in this country, but right now we're living in such an extreme where the arts in DC, we're going through a crazy time. Hamilton said it's not coming through, and on and on and on. But yeah, what's your take on it?
Listen, my take is the results are unbelievably unfortunate because you're talking about the loss of a lot of jobs and a loss of a lot of arts. And I know people aren't showing up to the Kennedy Center now. Like the shows that are going through there are not getting the audience they used to. And
Yeah,
when politics gets in the way of all that stuff,
yeah,
it's very, very disappointing and very damaging.
yeah.
Again, the arts are a very, very essential part of what we do, whether we believe it or not. They're sort of the first thing that gets cut. But they are, like I said, what really gets people thinking.
Yeah.
It's the spoonful of sugar approach, right? To
To
any,
quote a musical, yeah.
yeah, I
Actually,
mean,
I
that's what
interviewed
it's
Julie
about.
Andrews on the red carpet at the Kennedy Center one
Look at
time.
that.
So
Look
there you
at that.
go. Yeah, I mean it's really sad. Kennedy's JFK's line was it's a living memorial to him after he was assassinated. His line was ask not what your country can do for you. The current thing is make everything about me. Put my name in front of you on the building. So I would be saying the same thing if it was, Obama or Biden said, now it's the Obama Reagan National Airport. No, like it's political because you changed the name, not because them reacting to it is not what makes it political. It's a bridge too far no matter what, because I know I have listeners of all kinds, so I'm trying to be diplomatic. But it really enrages me because the city I love has, been turned upside down, not to mention all the Doge cuts to the government jobs. But one more on that real quick, then I want to get back to your career. But it kind of ties into, the immigrant story of your parents. You know what I mean? Like we're literally talking about, immigration and ICE and people getting blood in our streets because of the immigration issue right now. So it kind of ties into everything, your origin story of how you became, your success story. You've had the American dream. Um, how do I want to phrase this to you? Oh, here we go. The idea of sort of like, oh, everything is gone woke, and so we need to, go back to our classic traditional musicals. Remind our listeners that, if a lot of the musicals that are the classics were progressive for their time, we wouldn't have West Side Story or, you know what I mean, on and on to Rent and Hamilton and everything, Kinky Boots.
Listen, let's do a revival of South Pacific.
Yeah.
You've got to be carefully taught. That is the message of
Yeah.
South
Yeah.
Pacific. Like Showboat.
Yeah. Yeah.
Showboat is, arguably what created the modern musical.
Yeah.
That's what art has always done.
Yeah.
Art has always made the viewer, great art especially, and made the audience hold up a magnifying glass
Yeah.
to humanity, to life, to what's happening in the world.
Yeah.
And the best forms of art do it while entertaining you at the same time.
Sure.
That's what I mean about, and that's what I try to do with all my shows.
Yeah.
My shows are about entertaining and inspiring. That's my mission. I want to
Yeah.
entertain and I want to inspire to go out and do something good.
Yeah.
Whether that's invent a product, whether that's change the whatever it is, it's just to try to entertain and inspire, and to inspire through entertainment.
Yeah.
That's what I think great art does.
I agree. And I appreciate you even, being willing to go here with me and, discuss, because it is a heated political time. But I'm trying to reach and sort of educate. We do have a platform with sort of these airwaves, these podcasts, and, and whoever's listening, like, you probably have reasons you vote the way you do, and that's okay. It should be healthy democracy. But what we can't do is sort of have these sort of, um fascist-esque things of slapping names on buildings and decimating the arts and saying certain voices aren't allowed to be heard. If you want to get rid of anything that you deem progressive, you're not going to have any musicals left to show at the Kennedy Center. So I say play stupid games, win stupid prizes, and that's why we're shutting down for renovations supposedly for 2 years, but it's because they can't book anything.
Right.
So anyway, soapbox end rant off soapbox. But it ties back into your family's immigrant story and the American dream. So what we're about to talk about is like, in my view, the positive, what immigration can do for our country. So yes, so you're born in Phoenix, Arizona in 72, grew up in Massachusetts. So you say your first role was at age 5. Were you going by, was it Kenneth Hasija at the time?
Yeah,
Okay.
my legal name is Kenneth Anjum Hasija. I
Okay.
changed it to Davenport in 1993
Okay.
when I told someone I really wanted to work on Broadway, and they said, "You do? You
Yeah.
know what you need to do? You need to change your name." So
Wow.
I'm part of that generation in the early 90s. Look, a lot of people when I tell that story say like, "Wow, that's terrible," whatever. And like, yes, except the person was right.
Yeah.
I'm
Oh
not
yeah.
mad at that individual. The
Yeah,
reason
you
I'm
had to
sitting
at the
here
time. Yeah.
today is because that was reflective of the time and he was trying to be a friend.
Yeah.
I don't blame that person. I
Yeah.
blame me a little bit. I should have said, okay, I'm not gonna change it.
Yeah.
That means it's gonna be harder,
Yeah.
but it can still be done.
Yeah.
I changed it and did, and I have to live with that and
It's okay.
make peace with my
It's the
father
brand
about it.
now, so it wouldn't make sense to change. Everyone knows Ken
Yeah,
Davenport. That's like telling Andrew Lloyd Webber to change his life. No, it's like a name. We know it's your mom's maiden
exactly.
name. It works. It's your family. So all right. So you're age 5 then. So what? How do you say you got cast in that? But how did you actually get bit by the bug? Did your parents sit you down or take you to a musical movie or
No,
what
it
was it?
was listen, they've been studies on this and what really gets people to commit to the arts, whether that's being an audience member or whether that's being a performer or tech or whatever it
Yeah.
is participation in the arts, not just seeing it.
Right.
So I don't remember seeing any shows. I must have seen something that my parents were involved with because I was just around, but I was in it. And
Right.
then what happens is you find your people and your tribe and you're like, oh my gosh, these people are just like me. So I did
Yeah.
theater from the age of 5 to about 12. Then I got too cool for it. I thought I was going to play for the Boston Red Sox and the Boston Celtics simultaneously.
Yeah.
But I then got rebit by the bug my senior year of high school when I saw Les Mis. And
Ah, okay.
I'm part of that generation. And I never thought musicals could do what it did to me, which was move me. And I remember like, wasn't that long after I saw it, I quit the basketball team and I
Wow.
quit it in like a very dramatic fashion, like a scene right out of High School Musical. Like I I got hit in I was in practice. I got hit in a place where guys don't like to get hit.
All right.
My coach started making fun of me and sort of get back on the court and like da da da. Da, and I literally was like, I quit and
Were you
I'm
like
gonna
trying to
do a
take a charge and you
musical.
got a knee? Like that's how it usually happens down there in
No, it
Baton.
wasn't about taking a charge, but I just walked off the court and I was like, that's it. I'm not doing this anymore.
Yeah.
I refused to be treated this way, and I want to do a musical. I was very dramatic, still am in that way. And but I got the lead in the High School Musical, and then once again, I was like, oh
Nice.
my gosh, these are my people.
Yeah.
This is what it's about. And then I was really hooked. And I do this a lot when I fall in love with something.
Yeah.
I go at it
Yeah.
100 times, and
Full on
that's
obsessed
what I
with it.
did.
Yeah.
Just like I did a massive deep dive into studying every musical I could get my hands on. I drove into New York City by myself. My parents let me, like
Wow.
all this stuff to really
Down from
master.
Massachusetts. Where were you? Like Worcester-ish area or?
I went to high school in Worcester, actually,
Okay.
Worcester.
Nice. Nice.
We partied on the weekends. It was awesome.
You
Um,
partied.
but yeah, I lived in Sturbridge, and then I came into the
I see.
city to see shows, and
So when
I
you say you saw Les Mis, you're talking about you actually went and saw it on Broadway, or was it a high school
that
production
production
of it?
was what I saw at the Colonial Theater in
Okay.
Boston.
Okay.
That was the
Local. Okay.
first.
Gotcha. And then you walked off you walked off the court of basketball. And you said you became the lead in the high school play. What was that play? A musical?
Anything goes.
Oh, okay. Cole Porter. All
That's
right.
right.
Nice. I get a kick out of you. You're the top. It's a classic. All right. So you were hooked at that point. You started just going to Broadway all the time and seeing a bunch of
Yeah.
stuff, right?
Doing
Okay.
more shows, and I had already been accepted to Johns Hopkins University, but I very quickly decided I was going to transfer, and I transferred to the Tisch School of the Arts at NYU here in the city. I was hooked on theater, and that just wasn't the place to study theater. I
Yeah.
wanted to
Yeah.
study really in New York City where Broadway was. I
Sure.
wanted to be around it.
Yeah. Did you at least pay the visit to the Hippodrome once while you were here in
Yes,
Baltimore?
I have. I've had shows there now. That's the fun part.
Yeah. All right. So you study at New York. I guess it's a degree in acting, right? Bachelor in Fine Arts acting. Um,
Correct.
what college, I guess a two-part question. What college productions are you doing on campus? Because I know you're also off campus. You're right up by Broadway. You're starting to be like a production assistant on My Fair Lady, Richard Chamberlain, 1993. So
Yeah.
yeah, to kind of paint, if there's a way to dual question that, what were you doing on campus versus sort of the internship vibe?
Well, believe it or not, at that point, NYU was very much like train, 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 train. That's what they wanted us to do. It wasn't really about performing as much.
Yeah.
So I did that. And then I was asked to be a production assistant on a Broadway show um, in 1993. And I took it and I managed to finagle some school credit for it. So I
Mm.
actually spent a year outside of college getting college credit. So did that on My Fair Lady, and then I did it again for a revival of Grease. And that's where I really learned the business. And I also learned that I didn't want to be an actor,
Okay.
that there were many other positions available on a Broadway show that I was more interested in. There was stage management, company management, etc. And that's when slowly but surely I started to climb the administrative and production ladder.
Gotcha. So and that happens, sometimes you think you're going to be in one role like acting and then you realize, hey, the behind the scenes stuff I think is where my art and craft is actually going to flourish best. So that I'm glad and we're glad you did. Think of all the other actors that A, you're not stealing their roles now, but B, you're creating shows for them. So yeah, that's great. Okay, so you graduate in 94. I'm going to try to speed up a little bit here. So all right, so you graduate in NYU 94. 10 years later, you'd found Davenport Theatrical Enterprises in 2004. So describe that 10-year of, 94 to 2004, starving artist, logging your 10,000 hours, paying your dues to become the, 10-year overnight success. What's happening in those 10 years before you
Well,
found
I
your,
kept working on the production side, which was I was a stage manager, then a company manager, and then a general manager for Broadway shows and national tours, which
yeah,
is like a COO for Broadway musicals.
gotcha.
And I did that for a whole bunch of big time Broadway producers, all the while knowing I wanted to do my own shows. So I was starting to meet people, write shows myself, create shows myself. And then in 2004, I stepped away from the management career and started to produce my own stuff.
Gotcha. Gotcha. And that, like we said, is called Davenport Theatrical Enterprise in 2004. I guess it kicks off with like you writing and producing three off-Broadway shows, right? The Awesome 80s Prom, Altar Boys, and My First Time. Now, those are titles that, today's kids probably don't know as big as your other ones. But is there a soft spot in your heart of like, how do you think those prepared you for where the big ones we're about to get into in this interview?
Oh yeah. So first of all, like, look, your first shows are obvious, like sometimes your kids, right? Like your
Yeah.
first one, you hold a special place in your heart. And I never worked so hard and I never had more fun.
Yeah.
And the small shows, I often say I worked on Broadway shows for 10 years.
Mhm.
I never learned more on how to put a show up than on the small show
Yeah.
because I had no staff. I had no agency. I had nothing. I had just
Yeah.
me
Yeah.
working out of my apartment, answering the group sales line, learning
Yeah.
what to say to sell a ticket, and learning what not to say. So I did everything and I loved it. And yeah, without that's where you cut your teeth and you make mistakes, and then slowly but surely you build yourself up to bigger budgets and bigger people and all of it.
I love it. Now, where you're this just dawned on me because I'm about to go into your first Tony nomination and all that when the success really takes off. But right before that, when you're sort of toiling away at it, did your dad, the cardiologist, was he having heart, palpitations? Like, what is my son doing? Or were they always
No,
supportive?
the amazing thing about my father is he is probably the only Indian doctor on the planet who did not want his son to be a doctor.
Ah,
So
okay.
he had a hard time practicing medicine in this country actually because he was very opinionated. He had very strong views about medicine,
Hmm.
and he didn't like the way it was going in the 80s. And he, like a lot of things, he could see where it is now. Like he could
Gotcha.
see what was coming. And so he didn't want me to play that game. And he was also loved the arts. And he was like, if this is what I want you to do it. I
Right.
want you to. So you talked about the American dream or
Yeah.
the immigrant story of an immigrant coming over so his children can do better things. And by better, I mean things that
Yeah.
they want to do instead of things that they have to do. And I am a living example of the generosity, the struggle of my father.
Wow, I love that. Well, it's funny you mentioned that. You said he was the only one that didn't want you to enter his field and supported the arts. Well, arguably our biggest listener here in down the street in Frederick is is my wife's cardiologist, Dr. Nirmal Shah of Indian origin as well, and he loves our show. Shout out. I've never shouted him out before, but I thank you for listening. All right, so here we go. The big blow up moment. You get your first Tony nomination, I guess, for best. This is for best special theatrical event for. This is Will Ferrell, the hilarious Will Ferrell, at the sort of the height of his SNL, and he's doing a one man show in 2009 called "You're Welcome, America," a final night with George W. Bush. I guess the Bush president was just winding down or it just ended, and Obama was coming in. But what strategery went into producing that? Does Will contact you, or did you guys put it together for first and watching him do the bit on SNL with W, or how did it come about?
Yeah, like look, when big stars like that end up on Broadway, or I produced the Neil Diamond musical on Broadway, and
Yeah,
people always say, "How did that happen?"
yeah,
When those types of things happen with that kind of IP, it only happens because the person really wants it to happen,
yeah,
right? Like there's like no amount of lobbying, all that stuff is going to ever do it. The person really needs to do it.
yeah.
I was a co-producer on that show, so which means I was part of the board put together to help it in its final journey.
Mm,
But he wanted to do it.
yeah,
That was it. And when you have someone immensely talented like that, and that was a one-person show, right? It was just
yeah,
him, and it was Adam McKay,
yeah. Of course.
was his director,
Yeah,
and you just put them in a room and let them go.
yeah,
I mean, and basically say, what can I do to help you?
yeah.
Like, what do you need? Do you need food? Do you need a set designer? Do you need a massage? Like, what do you need to put your best creative work
Yeah,
in this room? And you
yeah,
support the artist, and it's like those like toys. Like you just like let them go. Just
yeah,
let them go in the room. And that experience, and it's on HBO, I think.
yeah. You can still find
It's
it.
one of the funniest evenings I have still like to this day I have seen.
Yeah,
It is just extraordinary, and he improvised so much of it. It was
yeah.
just amazing.
Yeah, all right. Yeah, look it up. Look it up on HBO or HBO Max or just Max or whatever they're calling it in our crazy streaming reconfigurations. But yes, that is Adam. Thanks for reminding me. That is Adam McKay who did a lot of those movies: Anchorman, Talladega Nights, Step Brothers, the other guys, all that stuff. And then would go on to do the. Speaking of W, not the Oliver Stone W, but the Vice, the Dick Cheney one. So all relevant to your show. All right, cool. All right, so then after that, Broadway fans are loving your stuff. I'll just list a couple. We don't have time to go into all these, but on Broadway.com, you're winning Audience Choice Awards for Godspell in 2012, Macbeth 2013. But then, really, the real big where you actually win your first Tony is for Kinky Boots for best musical in 2013. Now, remind us, it started as a 2005 film by Jeff Dean and Tim Firth, but then how do you join forces with the great Harvey Firestein to do the book and the great Cyndi Lauper to do the lyrics and the music? Just yeah, any insights you can share on how you pulled those, and those are icons all pulling together, all to move in the same direction.
Yeah, so that was another one that I joined a little bit later in the process. So
Okay.
the lead producers on that were Hal Luftig and Daryl Roth.
Okay.
And that was another example, of this. What I love about the movie to musical adaptation
Yeah.
is when you find these small movies that no one really knows much about, and then the
Yeah.
musical ends up
Yeah.
being bigger than the movie.
Like a hairspray. Yeah.
Right. That's
Yeah.
exactly what happened with
Yeah.
Hairspray and also with Kinky Boots.
Yeah.
And Harvey and Cindy were like the perfect collaboration and coming together and doing something again that's just talk about filled with joy
Yeah. Oh
and
yeah.
talk about something that holds up a mirror to the world. Like
Yeah.
one of my favorite parts about being involved with Kinky Boots was, like I said before, going to look at the audience in the last 5 minutes. And I used to like always find a group of husbands. Like I would just see them.
Yeah.
And in the curtain call, they'd be on their feet,
Yeah.
dancing and singing and like clapping their hands. And I
Yeah.
always like, you could pick out the ones from like the Midwest. And I'd be
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
if I told you, remember 2013,
Yeah.
if I told you
Yeah.
6 months ago that you'd be standing up and down, like
Yeah.
cheering and screaming and having so much fun for a bunch of drag queens on the stage right now,
Yeah.
what would you have said?
Yeah.
And the answer would be like, I never would have imagined that. And
You could
that's
see
what's
that they
great.
were the ones, the stereotypical, that had gotten dragged there by their wives to go see a Broadway show. But then by the end, they're seeing these amazing performers in drag, like with high heels on conveyor belts. And I mean, I saw it on Broadway too, and I remember just being blown away by it. So you're saying that these people by the end were like, they're like surprised how much they loved this show.
Yeah, and it's not just the spectacle and the conveyor belts or the
Yep.
high heels. They fell in love with the people because
And
that's
that's
what a
it.
great artist like Harvey does.
Right.
And they're applauding the people.
One more on Kinky Boots, really quick. Casting Billy Porter as Lola, because Billy Porter has been on the show before. Look it up in the Beyond Fame archives, everybody. But yeah, like, what was there some? Well, you said you came on a little later in the
Yeah,
process.
Billy
So was
was
he
already
already cast?
cast when I came on, but I can tell you that like I worked with Billy Porter in 1993 when I was a PA on that Grease, and he was Teen Angel, and being like, this is one of the greatest voices I've ever seen, and then watching the performance evolve over time, and just the man threw himself into that role and created something so different and so unique and so special and so fun.
Wow.
And so seeing him again bring Lola to life was just a wonderful moment for me.
Absolutely, absolutely. It'll echo down through the ages. There's been a lot of Lolas that have done it, in productions all across the country that are feeling free because of the roles that you and Billy and everybody helped create. That's really the legacy of all this. Not to end everyone in the audiences in all these little Midwestern towns that are watching Kinky Boots be performed. Like, you're changing hearts and minds around the world. People that just want to be themselves. Great. All right. So after Kinky Boots, you're the talk of the town. You probably already were, but you're officially the talk of the town now, Ken Davenport. um, and then you take on a couple Terrence McNally pieces. Want to shout out the playwright. I guess you get Tony nominated twice for Terrence projects. So first, it's Best Play for Mothers and Sons in 2014. That's about a mother who loses her son to AIDS, then reunites like 20 years later with her son's former with his ex. So that's powerful stuff by Terrence McNally. And then again, you do it. Then you take right after you nominated for Best Musical for The Visit 2015, which I believe Terrence McNally. I think wasn't it like conceived for Angela Lansbury, like 2001, but like she pulled out because her husband was sick and eventually died. But yeah, I guess we'll combine them into one question to save time. But Terrence McNally and those two productions, I mean, those two Tony nominated productions for you. Now, what was it like getting to work with such rich material on both of those?
But Terrence McNally, I've just been a super fan of Terrence for a very long time. There are
Yep.
moments in my like life that I will never forget theatrically.
Yeah.
And one of them was when I was a student at NYU and I saw Love, Valor, Compassion. And I wasn't seeing a lot of plays, but that one for some reason I was drawn to see. It got a lot of attention. And there was a moment in that play that made me gasp, that my mouth just like, and I had never done that at a play before. It
You
just
want to
like
tell us what it
punched.
is, or is that a spoiler all these
No, I'm
years
going
later?
to let you all read it.
Yeah.
Um, uh, well, no, I can tell you. It was the AIDS crisis.
Yeah.
And there's this scene where these characters are, um, they start to hide,
Hmm.
and they're basically eavesdropping by accident on a very private moment,
Okay.
and they're discovered, and the person who was in that private moment says to one of them, I hope you get what my brother gets, and I hope you die from it.
Oh my God.
And literally, I mean, this again is in the
I
early
just
90s.
gasped you saying
Yeah.
that.
I mean, and I remember, and this character was a very troubled character. I remember feeling like I got punched in the stomach.
Oh,
And the entire audience did the same thing. And I'm paraphrasing the line. I'm not
sure.
doing it justice or right. So
Yeah.
look it up if anyone wants to get it right, because it's that play is genius because it makes you laugh, it makes you cry, it makes you gasp, it makes
Mhm.
everything.
Yeah.
And I just remember being like, I, I've never felt that way at a play
Mm,
before. And
mm.
then being laughing in the next moment, like just hysterically laughing.
Yeah.
So then I went on to be the associate company manager on the musical Ragtime in
Yeah.
like 1998, 99. And
Nominated again this year.
Terrence wrote the book to that.
Okay.
And it's, I believe, one of the greatest books for a musical ever written. And that is not an easy feat. Like book writers are often not great playwrights, and playwrights are not often great. It's a very rare person and artist that can do that.
Mhm.
So I just was like obsessed with him and his talent. And so anything that like came along that was his, I was like very interested in doing. And the big one that I did was I was the lead producer on It's Only a Play
Mm.
with Tom Kearney, who was Terrence's husband. And we produced that with Nathan Lane and Matthew Broderick and Stockard Channing and Rupert
Wow.
Grint and F. Murray Abrams. And it was this wonderful thing. And to be able to bring that to Broadway, and it was a massive hit, um, after having like gotten Terrence his tickets for like his house seats for on Ragtime
Yeah.
and having been a fan of his, just again was one of these wonderful full circle moments that I will never forget.
Wow. Wow. What a great story. And yes, you made me gasp with that story. So I'd like to think we've changed, but it's fits and starts. It's one step forward, two steps back sometime. But we'll get there. Well, anyway, so yeah, thanks for your reflections on Terrence McNally. And then I guess after that, the other really big one in 2016, the Tony nomination for Best Musical Revival with Spring Awakening, another revolutionary show. I guess it was originated by Jonathan Groff and Leah Michelle in 2006. I guess we're in the 20th anniversary now. But when you all redid it, it was like, I guess, a 10th anniversary kind of a reboot revival, if you will. How'd you go about deciding that, because you can decide to revive anything at any time, right? How do you decide, oh, we're going to pick this one?
Yeah, I'll tell you exactly what happened there, which is I saw it.
Ah,
So like that was it. I had actually done a little bit of consulting on that show, was trying to help them. It was in LA. It
mm,
started a very small theater there and then went to the Wallace Annenberg.
right.
And I had done a little help and helping them with the rights and things. And
Yeah.
I wasn't going to see it actually. And then I was like, oh, I'm going to LA for a wedding. I'll just pop in. And then the first 15 seconds of seeing that show, I was like, I have to move this to Broadway. I've never seen
Right.
anything like it. But again, punched me in the stomach, right?
Why though? The content or the Duncan Sheik music or what?
Well, I was a huge fan of the original production,
Sure.
right? I was a fan of Spring Awakening originally,
Yeah.
but this production had a cast of deaf and hearing actors.
Mm,
And the moment the show began, it began with this beautiful guitar playing, and then a young woman stepped forward and started to sing Mama Who Bore Me,
mm.
and then the other started to sign it. And I was
Wow.
just, well, I did what I do at any great theater event, and I'm sure all of you
Yeah.
can, or any great entertainment event. I just
Sure.
sort of leaned in
Yeah.
and listened, and just like, and I
Yeah.
could feel the whole room doing that. And I was like, this is something that must be seen. It's too
Wow.
important to let go. So we did it.
Wow. That is fantastic. That is great. That is freaking great. Um, at Alney Theater down here in Maryland, interviewed a deaf actor named James Caverly, who was he was in, remember Only Murders in the Building? Nathan Lane's, is it his son, I think, or sidekick, something, in season one, set in New York, where you are. He was doing a production of, of The Music Man. And it was like a combo deaf and hearing performance. So when you were talking about that, when you saw that with Spring Awakening, that just sparked in my brain, and it was just fascinating to have him signing his responses of how he brought literally the Music Man of all thing, Harold Hill, to all audiences, really. So another way where Broadway is leading the way, not only gender, sexuality, and race and everything, but also accessibility too. Wow. All right, cool. And then the next year, 2017, you're nominated for Best Musical again with Groundhog Day, 7 total nominations. Was this a movie that you loved? Had you seen it over and over again, like Bill Murray's character living it over? It's one of my personal favorites. But you wouldn't necessarily think it's a musical. I mean, I guess you got the Sonny and Cher on the alarm clock. I've Got You, Babe, but you wouldn't necessarily think it's a musical. So what in your brain and your team were like, I think this could work?
So different things attract me to shows at different times, and that was the creative team. So
Mm,
Tim Minchin wrote the score, and I had a personal relationship with Tim. I was doing a very small show, and he came over here for the first time to do his comedy show, and he was
mm,
sharing a theater with us.
yeah.
And I saw the show, and once again, the common theme, I was punched in the gut
Mm,
by his humor, by his songs, everything. And I was like, this guy wants to do, and I literally went up to him afterwards and was like, you got to write a Broadway musical.
Yeah.
And he was like, nah, I'm going to work on television and film and do some comedy. I was like, you've got
Yeah.
musicals in you.
Yeah.
And then like a year later, he said, Ken, you'll never guess. I'm writing a musical for the Royal Shakespeare Company called Matilda. Like I just could feel it.
Yeah.
And then when the opportunity came aboard along to join the team on Groundhog Day, I jumped.
I love it. But when you jump, you got to watch that first step because it's a doozy. um, awesome. And then and we're getting pretty close to the present here. I appreciate you've been generous with your time, but we got to hit the real big highlights, especially now we're finally to the one that's behind you on that shelf. Your 2018 Tony win for Best Musical Revival with Once on This Island. I think you had 8 total nominations that year, but you win for the Best Musical Revival. Again, remind us how I think it's like a retelling of a Hans Christian Andersen, right? Little Mermaid.
Basically, the Little Mermaid.
Yeah.
Yeah. Based on the story, and then the same writers of Ragtime, Ahrens and Flaherty, wrote this musical. And the way that this came about was very simple. Spring Awakening was directed by Michael Arden, who was a former actor turned director genius. And literally on the opening night of Spring Awakening, we got a rave review in the New York Times, and we were getting along great. And I said, "What's next? What do you want to do next?" And he said, Once on this island. And I was like, great. I know Ahrens and Flaherty. I'll call him
Yeah.
up. And I said, Michael wants to do it. Actually, they were there that night at the party. I said, can I introduce you? That's what producers do, sort of connect
Yeah.
people. And we produced Once on this island. And Michael topped himself again and did something very unique and genius and a very sort of environmental, immersive production
Yeah.
that really stood out. And we won the Tony Award. That's another example of me seeing something in my youth in the early 90s when I first went to NYU in 1991.
Mm.
I saw the original production on Broadway at the Booth Theater and was punched in the stomach, but with joy. Like I just remember walking out of the
Yeah.
theater going, the lead character, the protagonist, dies at the end. Why am I so happy? And that's
Yeah.
this wonderful, beautiful story
Yeah.
that was
Yeah.
told. And so to get the chance to do it again was a thrill.
Absolutely. For someone that, walked off the basketball court because you got kneed in the nether regions, you get punched in the gut a lot during your Broadway shows. So I don't I know you were trying to follow your passion, but it was similarly painful in the getting punched in the gut. It's a good punch in the gut. That's what we go to the theater for. You know what I mean? And all the way up to Titanic now. You said I know everyone dies in the end. Why am I so joyful? Well, there you go. Board the Titanic. But okay, cool. So fill in the gap then, because I know we're up against the clock. But so what? Once on This Island was 2018. And then how we're pretty much coming up to COVID then, which we know in 2020 rocks the world, every industry, restaurants, etc. But Broadway too, man, and theaters around the country, even down here in DC, in ways that I don't know if we've even fully recovered. But I think we're in a much stronger place now, 6 years out. But just talk about how that affected you. Your ability. Did it change your way you approach to try to fundraise for projects, these successful Tony-winning projects, and then suddenly people aren't allowed to go in space. So remembers of that real. It's almost like you got to pin. Like, did we really all go through that? It's crazy.
It was a very difficult time, and we often look back and go like, "What? How did we get through that?"
Yeah.
Yes, restaurants had it brutal, but at least they had takeout. Like
Right.
we didn't have anything, nothing.
Delivery. Yeah.
So we were shut down. I mean, there was nothing, and we're
Yeah.
still coming out of it. We are not
Oh, yeah.
back. There's no way. We have got a long way to go. It continues to be a battle for us, but we got through it. We got through it.
Yeah. What's the latest at your business, man? What is the latest? And it's okay if you don't have the stats in your fingertips, but just generally speaking, like what was the low point, and then how much is percentage wise, or even ballpark, how much has it come
Yeah, I
back
can
to
give
every
you
year?
some. I can give you some good statistics, which is that last year we posted our season grosses, and we finally reached the same level of 2018, 2019.
Oh, good. So you're finally back to pre-COVID levels.
Yeah, good. Except if you're working somewhere and someone says to you, "Hey, congratulations, your salary is exactly the same as it was 6 years ago." You'd be like, well, that doesn't work for me. My
Yeah.
rent has gone up. The groceries have gone up. And in the last 6 years, they've gone up exponentially.
Yeah.
So we are only back where we were, yet our expenses are much, much higher because
Ah.
Broadway has an inflation that is much higher than
Yep.
everywhere else because we have a lot of unions and a
Yeah.
lot of supply chain issues.
I gotcha. I
We
see what you're
are
saying.
$1 billion behind where we would have been if COVID didn't happen.
Wow.
We grow usually at the average of about 6% a year. For
Hmm.
several years, we had no growth or compounded growth.
Right.
Therefore, we're missing over $1 billion now.
Wow. So
So
on
we were
paper, it looks good. The numbers themselves look good, but when you compare, actual
where
inflation
we should
numbers,
be.
wow. All right. Well, keep at it. If anyone can help bring it back, it's you. Well, that leads us to some of the business questions. I know if there's like for layman's terms out there, they know what the actor does. They might even know what a choreographer and director does, or hair and makeup. Like you can kind of see that stuff, lighting, you can sound, you can see all that on stage. But for a producer, like how do you actually go about pulling the funds together to produce something? I know you've compared Broadway productions to almost like startup businesses in some cases. So how do you go pulling that capital together?
Yeah, Broadway, I consider myself a founder of a startup. I'm just a serial startup guy because I do a lot of shows.
Yeah.
It's the same thing. I have a product. The product is a play or a musical. I have to find a place to sell that product. The theater. I have to have an advertising campaign. I have to raise the money, just like any other entrepreneur out there. It's very
Yeah.
similar. So we raise the money in the same way that most startup founders raise money. You
Hmm.
start friends and family and people that might be interested in the product or whatever it is, and slowly it expands from there. It gathers momentum. You get more people and more people. Broadway like productions are very expensive.
Yeah.
They can be, $8 million, $5 million for a play, up to 20, $25 million for a musical. So I've
Hmm.
raised, over the course of my career, over like $130 million for the arts.
It's awesome.
Um, and it's a lot, but I often say I'm the worst salesperson on the planet because I couldn't do that unless I really, really loved it.
Yeah.
And I do. And the investors come from a variety of areas.
Yeah.
It's not what you think. Like a lot of people think it's institutional capital or any of that stuff.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
The average investment in a Broadway show is probably $50,000, some $25,000, and it comes
Wow.
from
So you're adding a bunch of small, quote unquote, smaller donate. I know that's a lot of money,
right.
but like in this in comparatively, like it's more $50,000 on top of each other. 25,000 adds up to the giant budget.
Yeah, and it comes from theater lovers.
Right.
It comes from lawyers and doctors and accountants and people who did high school musicals but then chose a safer career. Like
People like
it's
your
all
dad, the heart doctors.
that's right. That's right. Maybe your wife's cardiologist. Who
Yeah,
knows?
exactly. Dr.
Like
Shaw. Yeah,
that.
the heartbeat of Broadway.
But it's
I
about people who
yeah,
love the theater.
yeah.
That's the thing.
Like for instance, last year's Othello, like having Denzel Washington or Jake Gyllenhaal attached, does that actually speed it along? Obviously a little, but it's still probably still a similar process. You got to still, build it from the ground up.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Every production is a brand new startup.
Yeah. Does it help to have the obvious? I mean, that seems like obvious, but explain the difference to have the names attached.
Yeah, when you have stars and celebrities in shows, they become like insurance policies,
Right.
right? Like we know we're going to sell a certain amount of tickets, but the stars cost a lot more money.
Yeah.
Like advertise, there's a lot of
Mhm.
knock-on. So yes, risk is
Yeah.
lower, but
Yeah.
expenses go up, margins are smaller, all that. It's the same thing as with any business.
And you have to compete more with their shooting schedules and all the other stuff they have going on.
Yeah,
So
you
it
don't
makes sense.
usually get them for a long time.
Right, exactly. All right. Well, as we wind this thing down, let's kind of talk about what you got going on. You're a salesman, so let's use my podcast to plug what you got going on out there. I guess what you got paranormal activity. What is it currently at the West End? And then what, Joy and a couple others. Why don't you tease what you got going on now?
Yeah, I'm developing three big musicals for Broadway and the world. One, the Griswolds Broadway Vacation, which is the next chapter in the Vacation movie franchise, but as a Broadway show.
I
So
love it.
Audrey, Rusty, Ellen, and Clark get in the truckster. They come to Broadway for the first time. Uh,
Does cousin Eddie roll up in his RV and he's saying, "Shitter was full"?
Well, he doesn't say that, but he definitely is in there. Um,
I love the first two at least. It started to go downhill with European, I guess. Although I do still quote Big Ben Parliament as they're going around the traffic circle. But the first Vacation, directed by Harold Ramis and written by John Hughes, and then the Christmas Vacation is probably the one that most people have seen the most due to annual holiday rewatches. But do you have a favorite in the franchise?
uh, believe it or not, I'm a fan of European. Like that one
Really?
was, yeah, I loved it and I was sort of like that was when I really started falling in love with movies. So I think it's
Well,
probably why.
so now I'm pulling my foot out of my mouth. Vegas
Don't worry.
Vacation was not bad either. It's a pretty good franchise.
That's right.
Okay, so that, and then you got Joy, and what else? Slumdog Millionaire, the musical, Jai Ho.
Yes, exactly.
I
I'm
can see that.
developing that into a musical, which we're very excited about, especially because of my Indian heritage. That one is very important.
Absolutely. Well, everybody check out our previous episode with interview with Freida Pinto in the archives, and I guess also you're doing something a biopic on Harry Belafonte.
Not a pick. I don't do
Sorry,
biopics.
a musical of his life on stage.
Yeah, we're develop. I'm a big fan of what I call docudramas. I produced the Neil Diamond musical on Broadway, which is now all over the country and going to Australia.
Yeah.
Um, I like musicals about real stories, real people. Joy is a story about Joy Mangano, subject to the movie Joy. She was a real person, single mom, Long Island, invented the miracle mop, and went on to change her life.
The Jennifer
Uh,
Lawrence movie that we saw. Yeah. All
yeah,
right, cool.
those are the types of shows that I like to do. Any element of reality and ordinary people doing extraordinary things.
I love it. Well, yeah, I mean, that's you too, I hope this hour-long conversation, folks, has also inspired other people because you are an quote unquote ordinary person. You are the American dream, to tie it full circle to everything we've been talking about. I want to end with a couple people bragging on you. Andrew Lloyd Webber, of course, who did Phantom of the Opera and Cats and Jesus Christ Superstar, Evita, etc., said about you, quote, "I wanted to work with Ken because he works to shatter the mold and use his boundless energy to break new ground." End quote. And one other one, Barry Manilow, said, quote, "If you believe in the work that you do, don't give up. Just keep on going. Don't listen to the negatives. Just believe in what you do, and maybe waiting for you down the road is a Ken Davenport." I mean, that's high praise. Yes. So hopefully someone listening, hopefully you'll take those words to heart, and maybe they'll create the next great show that you will produce. So
Let's hope.
thank you so much for joining us. Have you written this down in a memoir yet? There better be a book at some point.
There's a book out there on Amazon. I've written a couple things about how to succeed in the arts, and then I wrote a book on Broadway investing. But if people are interested in learning more about me, the best place is just Instagram. There's no charge for Instagram, so it's just at Ken Davenport B-Way, and you can learn all about the business to Broadway and more.
I love it. I love it. Well, thank you so much for making so much time for us. It's been great. I know it's like a bit of a rock skipping across the pond of your career, but I do appreciate a longer interview, way better than 5-10 minutes on a radio live shot or something. So I appreciate the hour-long podcast format with you. And I guess let's end by, I want to say best of luck tonight with Titanic at the Tonys. If you do win, will you get up there and say, "I'm the king of the world"?
I will push everyone out of the way and just thank you, Jason. That's what I'm going to do if I win.
I highly doubt you will. But hey, thank you so much for doing this. I really, really appreciate it.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Thanks so much for listening to Beyond the Fame with Jason Fraley. Our theme music is Scott Buckley's Clarion. Remember to give us a 5-star rating if you like what you hear. We'll see you next time.